Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Crescendo Way podcast. It is Monday, the 12th of January, 2026, and we're coming off the back of a big FA Trophy round of 32 victory over Gloucester City. We've had the draw for the round of the last 16, a potential trip away to either Rochdale or to Tamworth. There's a few subjects, there's a great list of guests. We've got Mark Wilcox, Mark Williams, Josh Brady, and of course my sidekick Mucky. So first of all, I'd like to jump straight in. I'd like to start with Mark Williams, if that's all right. Mark, I'd like to go to you and ask you what were your thoughts on Saturday's penalty shootout win, a 1-1 draw in normal time, and then 4-3 over the penalty shootout. What were your thoughts on the game?
I think as somebody who's been previously quite sort of at times not damning but critical of certainly some of the early season performances, um, it really was a game at two halves on Saturday. I thought they were. You could tell there was a difference in the leagues. They weren't the best we've had. That being said, if it hadn't been for Fraser's save in the second half and a couple of missed chances, we could have been two or three or even worse down. Um, but the good thing about Marine at the minute is whatever he does at half time or whatever he needs to do, when he does it, he does it. And it seems to get an immediate, there's an immediate impact and improvements in performance. That's not to say that we were poor first half. We weren't. We just weren't at the races. Um, but as I say, overall, um, I think Bobby alludes to it in his a win is a win in a cup game, and it's all about getting through to the next round. The manner of the performance or the manner of the victory doesn't really matter. And again, it keeps momentum going, doesn't it? By the Chorley result, we're in a good run of form where we don't look like we fear anybody, and we're giving anybody that we play more than a match in most games. So yeah, I was pleased with the overall performance, albeit that the first half was nothing to write home about at all, in my opinion.
Mark Wilcox, is this another example of, and Marine have shown that over the years, that the leagues don't really make a difference in a cup game? It could be anybody on the day.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about resilience, isn't it? For me, I mean, I just thought that we kind of dug deep. Um, they had a game plan for that first half. They got the goal, and then they tried to play the time down, get it into the second half, and get in. But the turning point for me was when they had a chance to go 2-0 up. I don't know if you remember it in the first half, and they missed it. He squared the ball wide. It was a terrible miss. And that was the turning point where this is where Bobby talks about our character a lot, I find, when he says, they sort of rally themselves together and they start playing a little bit more with a little bit more tempo. Um, I found that was the turning point then for us. And then obviously in the second half we got the early sub, the typical Bobby Grant early sub, and then the game came out, and obviously we took our chance. We got that goal, and yeah, it was just more of it was a clear definition of fine margins that whole second half, and with us getting that goal and turning it into this not a gritty performance, but like it was a glorious end, wasn't it, with Fraser's saves and stuff, and that kind of brings me to when I was reflecting on the game, I was thinking the pedigree of Fraser Barnsley and not taking anything away from McIntyre because he himself has got his own pedigree as well. But for such a young keeper to come to Marine, I mean, we've had so many loan keepers over the years. He's come from a Premier League team. He's got international under 21 experience. He's been on loan at Welling. He's played at Oxford, and he's chose to come to Marine. And I think it just that all that experience just came out on that night, I think. And full credit to the lads and well done for the club for bringing him in.
There was a number of fantastic individual performances. That was from Finn Sinclair Smith. and the run as well. I think it's Adam Thomas, is it, who makes the run to create the space for Potter to get on the end. Just really, was there any standout performances that you thought from yourself, from what you saw of the game, that could be taken into the future games as well? Maybe someone who maybe cemented a place, given that there was opportunities for fringe players.
Yeah, I thought for me it was good to see Whelan back as well in the centre of the midfield, to be honest, because I think we've been unlucky this year, haven't we? We haven't really had him and Gregson together, obviously both been injured individually and then come back. Thought Whelan was good. Thought Potter as well looked good, for the lads of 16 years of age, up against two centre halves who were probably bigger than me. He was about 6 foot 6 4, just wanted to throw him about and wrestle all game. I thought he's done really well for himself, to be honest with you, and he stuck at it all game. For me, do you know what the positive was for me? Seeing Matthew McDonald come back and he come on and it didn't look like he'd been away. My half fella said it to us when we were walking out. Didn't shake a tackle, was throwing his shoulders in, was getting stuck in. And that's exactly what you want to see for someone who's been out for a couple of months, and someone who we've missed, let's be realistic. And for him to come in and give us the last 20 to 25 minutes and play the way he did, I thought was just brilliant for me. And, if we have got players coming back and, they're putting those types of performances in there, it does look good, doesn't it?
You made a great point there about Matty McDonald, and it's so good to see him back. And if Matty sees this, everyone is absolutely delighted to see you back on the pitch.
Yeah.
Touching on the lack of Zanzala there and Newell as well, with these cup type players, is there an onus now that because you're getting to the business end of the cup competition, Mucky, that you feel that maybe Marine should be looking to bring in one or two quality players that could get Marine over the line and maybe towards Wembley?
Yeah, I mean, they've got to. They've got to. I mean, I think as Josh said, Potter did really well, but he's not. He doesn't really suit. He doesn't suit the way we play, and if you're just playing on foot by yourself, obviously that's not his problem because he's just a young kid, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? And he's not going to be able to back in and get against big centre halves and this. So I think that was a problem on Saturday really because we had to play a different way, which I thought we were better with second half, but first half the intensity wasn't there, a bit too slow with the build up, which is easy to defend against. But I think you've seen on Saturday, I think we probably got away with it because I think Gloucester were a weaker team than us. But I think when you look at it, obviously Rochdale and Tamworth, we are definitely gonna have to bring people in. Obviously we're hoping Neil will be back because he's going to be needed. And yeah, I think we just got to bring a couple of players in because obviously that's a really tough side. But you listen, as I said, the lads have said there, fair play. One thing you will say about this team is no matter if the first half isn't great, the up this second half. I still thought we struggled a bit to break them down, but you can't question the heart of the team and the grit of the team, and I think that was all that. Obviously, it's a look on penalties, but I think we got through that game by grinding it out really, and so that was a great win. I think it was a great win with the players we had available really.
Yeah, it certainly was. I believe Gloucester as well were also in a similar position. I believe they had a couple of
Yeah.
first team players missing themselves also. Just to touch on as well, the Gloucester City fans, just for a moment, I thought they were outstanding. I went and stood amongst them, a really friendly bunch, and it reminded me quite a lot of the way Marine are, in the sense of really knowledgeable fans. They know a lot about the team. And they were only interested in Gloucester as well. Then none of this, we've seen it with Curtin Ashton, and the less said, the better. Some of the anti-Scouse bits that go around in football. And Gloucester City supporters were a credit to themselves. They were only interested in supporting Gloucester. I just want to go back to you, Willow, just while we're talking about Bobby Grant's teams. Is this become quite a frequent characteristic then, in your opinion, of Marine side, and particularly of a Bobby Grant side, that it's a slow first half and then second half they really go for it?
As I say, I don't know so much as clear cut as first half and second half. I just think he seems to have the capacity and ability to be able to change things at the right time, whether that be early in the game. I think we've seen in a couple of games where he's changed things quite quickly. Um, I think as fans sometimes you get fans on side if you're active, if you do something rather than do nothing. And I think early on in the season, some stages, it was a bit like that. It seemed like there was no answer. Some of the games where we were poor, basically, we had a couple of quite heavy defeats, and it didn't seem like there was an answer. Now there seems to be between the team and the effort that they're putting in, which is amazing. They really are well, it's only about 13 or 14 at the minute. They're all putting a massive, massive shift in. And obviously that must come from the manager and the coaching staff. They take the lead from them. But when you look at the likes of we all know Finn's ability. He's got bags and bags, but his work rate is unbelievable. It really is. For some teams would regard him as a luxury player. Well, he can't be that in the Marine team the way that Bobby Grant sets up, and he knows that, and he puts in performances that mean that he added so much to his game. I think this year. But again, as I say, once to 13 or 14, they're all putting shit in. I think it was said on the last podcast. I was surprised when Adam Thomas was still around this season. Now, I've known Adam since he was 8. I worked at the academy at Everton, and along with Adam, there was 3 or 4 other players who've gone on. Chris Doyle was one, Luke Clark, quite a few lads who played for Marine. And Adam was outstanding as a kid, but he was quite sort of quiet and timid. But if you add up the minutes and the important minutes he'd have played by the end of the season, in a multitude of positions. But again, it just shows you what you need to do. Bobby alludes to it all the time in his post-match conferences. That's the standard. That's the minimum that he asks as a manager. And I think we're really starting to see, the fruits of all their endeavours and the hard work that's put in. Especially again, we keep saying, don't we, the injuries of, Mark said before, we've not had the chance, the luxury of being able to see Harvey Gregson and Lee Whelan play regularly together this season. They're both a year older, both a year more mature than they were last year, and they were outstanding. But anyone that's come in has done such an amazing job. And as I say, I really my opinion has turned down. At one point, sort of October way, I was worried, because I thought we were going to go on a similar bad run we went on last year, and I wasn't confident that we would have the chance to go on a good run after Christmas this time round. If we do, jeepers, who knows? So it's all rosy in the garden at the minute. We definitely need reinforcements. There's no 2 ways about that. In the last podcast, it was alluded to, we generally do well at the end of the January transfer window. I'm still checking every single day, looking for something and looking for an announcement of somebody from somewhere coming in. As long as it's somebody of the caliber and somebody's going to put the work rate in the same as anybody else. I wouldn't say we've had our fingers burned with a couple of lone players, but a couple of them have come in and looked so far wide of the mark. And these are guys who played in league football, and they've left me scratching my head because I can't see it. I can't see it. If you put some of the lads we've got in the team at the minute up against them and asked them, a neutral to pick who's the league player and who's the non-league player, I think they'd be picking most of our lads against some of the lads that we've had in. So you've always got to be careful with the loan market. But, on the flip side of that, we've seen how well we can do with some of the quality that we've had in on loan. The likes of Fraser, the likes of Odin. We've touched really lucky in getting quality players like that in.
We certainly have, and you're absolutely right. We have had our fingers burnt a couple of times now with some loan signings that have come in that just haven't done the job. Fortunately, with loans, you can sort of move them on fairly quickly. We've had a couple of issues in the past as well with goalkeepers, and certainly Fraser Barnsley has come in, and what a stellar job he's done. He really is. He's one of the best goalkeepers I've seen on the Marine trip for some time now. Mark Wilcock, just coming back to you then, because I just want to pick up on a really great point there that Mark Williams has just brought up, and that's about Adam Thomas. Adam Thomas was brought up by Tim McDermott in our last podcast as well as being possibly one of his top three players of the season, purely for the work ethic. We've seen, as Willow's just alluded to, days moved into a variety of positions. Just how important is a versatile player like Adam Thomas to a team like Marine?
Oh, when you get the injuries like what we've had, he's like unplayable, and there's obviously for me there's no words to explain. Like he's like a different player to what we had last year, and I don't know whether that's complemented by Bobby's energy and positivity into the change room and all the players around him. I don't know what it is. Obviously, only Adam will know. But whenever you play him, he just he's a shining example, isn't he? He does everything by the book, textbook. He doesn't do anything daft. He does the press. He makes the simple passes. You know, for me, he does everything. And yet, every team should have a player like that who can fit into that midfield defense or attack. You know, I think that's something that we've lacked. I don't think. I mean, I think we only really started to see him as a right back a little bit towards the end of last year, didn't we? And now he's right mid, centre mid, right back, centre forwards, whatever you want, left back. I don't know, but yeah, no, I love him. And he's such a lovely fella as well. Like what Will was saying. I mean, I've chatted to him a couple of times when he's done some interviews and that. And he's just so nice, you know. So like, he's actually interested in the club. Do you know what I mean? When you're talking to him, and he loves the fans, and you know it's genuine when you're talking to him. He's not just, you know, this is my job sort of thing. He's part of the club, you know.
Is he the sort of player, Mark, would you say that he can, because of that attitude that you're saying, and he's adhering himself to everyone at every level, from the fan to the manager
Yeah,
to his teammates, is he someone that could end up spending a long time here at Marine purely on that work ethic?
I hope so. If he carries on the way he does, I'd love to see him here, you know, till he hangs his boots up and stuff. And um, but yeah, I mean, I don't know whether some of it's going to be down to Bobby as well, you know, because we've had this player, didn't we, last year, and even towards second half of the season, he was still the same Adam Thomas. But this season, he's like a whole new beast. You know, it's like a totally different player. And he's scoring goals as well, which is what he was lacking last year in his game. You know, when he's asked, you know, like even at the Radcliffe, was it Radcliffe? I think he scored as well, did he? I think it was Radcliffe. Correct me if I'm wrong. But yeah, and that's when we were playing bad. But yeah,
I mean,
Bobby's got this. Sorry, Adam. Bobby's got this energy around him. For me, I've only really spoke to him this season, you know, been around him in his office and stuff when we come to do interviews and stuff for the media team. But he's got this, for me, this is my own interpretation. He's got this positive energy and vibe about him. I can't put my finger on what it is. And I always remember a couple of years ago, in fact, it was beginning of last season when Regan Griffiths was the captain for Marine, and my Margot, she was only 7. She was the mascot for the game. And I remember stood on the pitch waiting for the team to come out. And I remember she coming over to me going, "Who's that fella over there?" And I was going, "Are you on about?" So that fella over there. And when that's Regan Griffiths. She went, "No, no, not him. He's not playing." Anyway, I found out later it was Bobby Grant. Bobby Grant had come over, chatting away to her, make a fuss of her and all this. And that was my 7-year-old saying, "Oh, this lovely fella, this lovely man will come over." And I was like, that's hit the nail on the head. He's just got this positivity around him. And that's on a personal level, but you know, as a coach, as a manager, he's, you know, I'd hate to see him on a bad day. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm so happy he's at Marine. You know,
it's funny that you say about the aura and Margot's experience of him, because my 10-year-old nephew, Lucas, he absolutely loves Bobby. I've got the same thing. Bobby made the time for him. Another player who's like that, I'm going to take it over to you, Josh, as well. It's Finn Sinclair Smith again, who Willow was touching there about how Finn's game has changed, and something I picked up earlier in the summer as well is that there's a lot of leadership qualities I'm seeing now in Finn. And I see how much he talks and how much of a leader he is for that team on the pitch as well. And I had a young kid coming when we were coming home from the game actually on on Saturday, and he was talking. This kid absolutely loved Finn. I think it was his first Marine game. I could hear him talking to his either dad or granddad, and they were talking how much Finn Sinclair Smith had an impact on them and what they saw. But from you, is there anyone else alongside Finn as well who you're seeing blossoming under Bobby Grant this season, Josh?
It's just about Finn the Shark, man. He's brilliant, isn't he? He's so good. It's just like his tenacity, isn't it? Like. Let's be realistic. Okay, what is he, about 5'7", 5'8", and just doesn't let it get him down, does he? Just cracks on, battles, works hard, and I agree with what you were saying there about how much he's come on this season. And I don't know how old he's, about 24, 25, but I think at times he's looked a bit shy, hasn't he, and a bit like unsure really with his kinds of his place. But yeah, like you say now, he's one of those probably leaders, isn't it? Players will look up to him in the change rooms. You've seen his record, you've seen what he's done for us, and yeah, absolutely love him. And what the two Marks were saying as well about Adam Thomas, like, I'm happy to die on plenty of hills. You've seen me die on them before, the likes of Bailey Passant and that. I've survived on them, but with Adam Thomas, I was like, why have we signed him? I was just like, what's the point? But I'll happily hold my hands up. Without him, he'll be absolutely buggered this season. So, hasn't been taking anything back. He's been unbelievable. I don't know, the two Marks were talking about like versatility and just players like that. Marines injury record. He's probably going to play at fullback this weekend, isn't he? But yeah, just unbelievable. Deserves all the credit he gets, to be honest with you. I think for me, it's a bit bittersweet, but I think Samuel Smith for me was unbelievable. Honestly, one of the best fullbacks I've seen for us since probably everyone remember Kyle Hayes, who I think could have went on to play league football, but just didn't. And I always remember when he come in on loan, and I was just looking at him thinking like he's going to make it. Never did for one reason or another, but I think Samuel Smith for me has just been unbelievable, just been a rock at the back. I mean, I think sometimes you have to look at like Wardle, don't you, and the way he's managing the back line and seeing the way he's talking. He never has a problem with Samuel Smith, he knows what he's doing. And I wish all the luck to the lads. I think he's got us to at least make it to the leagues. Do you know what? It's talking about people. Anson, I think, has been brilliant. Really, really good. And, he's playing as a back day as part of Drysdale, who's good now for like 3 months, and Wardle. But since Drysdale he moves into midfield, then he's been out injured. But Anson just hasn't missed a beat for me. He's been unbelievable. Just slid in next to Josh, just gets on with it. I think I've seen people pay more attention to Josh because he's the captain, he's more vocal, isn't he? And he has to be, he's a leader, where Anson just sits next to him and just gets the job done. And yeah, I think someone like that, touch wood, keep him injury free. He's a rock for us at the back, really, isn't he? And keep it that way, hopefully.
Speaking of rocks at the back as well, Anson has been brilliant. It was great to see as well, because we have got quite an extensive injury list. How many injured players are still coming down, and they were there on Saturday as well. Butler was there, Drysdale was there. I think everyone was there, to be honest with you. Everyone on the injured list. I think they were all down there, and it's been talked about already about this unity that Bobby Grant's created in the dressing room. I mean, we've seen the success, and you've just touched on it there, Josh, about the success Odin Samuel Smith has enjoyed here at Marine. Fraser Barnsley is enjoying a great success alongside him as well. Mucky, I'm going to put this question to you. When you've got players who are injured still coming to watch the games and support their teammates, you've got loan players coming in and having successful loan spell with Marine. How much difference does that make for a director of football like Neil Young to be able to attract a player into Marine?
Yeah, it does. I mean, just before I answer, I just want to touch on him. Obviously, I think just on about Potter, really. I mean, for 16-year-old kids to come in, I think he's probably one big reason we're still in the FA Trophy. Because he got the goal, he played occasion, and for 16-year-old kids to come into the team, and you got experienced lads like, in the team, and he's not the biggest and all that. And do you know what? He hasn't even looked out of place. He's struggled a bit on the right when he played on the wing in the first half. But as soon as he went into the centre, I mean that kid's got a really bright future. If he carries on what he's doing, I mean, you could really have a really top player there. Once he develops and all that. So I think he deserves obviously massive respect for coming into the team because we all remember, when you're 16 and it's like to come into men's football as well, and you've seen how big that centre half for Gloucester was. I mean, Jesus Christ, he's probably twice the size of him. Do you know what I mean? It was like, fair play. Honestly, fair play to Potter. I can't give him his flowers enough because, obviously after a game on Twitter and stuff like that. But obviously people said things about him, but obviously with the players out and all that, and to come in and come in against someone like Hayes and Ashton, and he should have scored. He should have probably scored, and he probably said that himself. He played really well, and again on Gloucester. But go on, just to repeat your question again, Dad's gone on a bit of a tangent with Potter, but there's just
No, not at all. Because actually, you know what? Because you've raised a great point there. So my original question to you was about the loan spells being so successful
yeah,
for Odin and Fraser, and then you see this unity that Bobby created within the team, this harmony. And my question originally was, how easy does it make for a director of football with Neil Young to be able to bring a player in? But you've touched on something that I wanted to bring up as well. Anyway, was you're bringing a player in, but also as well being able to showcase to young talent as well that there is a pathway with the likes of Potter and Hubie being able to make first team football for Marine.
yeah, definitely. And I think obviously if you were trying to get loan signings and this, you're looking at how well obviously Odin's done. But you obviously see players like obviously Sol who's gone to Tranmere and stuff like that. So I think it definitely does, and I think like obviously players from football league clubs will look at Marine now and go they seem to be going the right direction. But also that the manager is not scared of throwing a 16-year-old kid into the team. He's not. We put him on against Chorley as well. So he's not just like going, oh, we're throwing in the FA Trophy because we've got no one else. He's thrown up against Chorley, a big, if anyone watches this, it's Chorley, a big, massive side, so again, he's not scared to throw like, youngsters on. So I think that makes it easy. Obviously, when you go into the loan sign, if you are getting a loan sign, that you've got a manager there who, if you're if you're good enough, it doesn't matter what your age is. And talking about obviously the togetherness. I mean, I went to Bedford away, and Harvey Gregson went all the way to Bedford. He was injured, and he went all the way there and all the way back. It's like 7 hours there and back, and he's not even playing. Do you know what I mean? But I was speaking to Harvey actually after the game, and he was just saying like, he's just, he's there to support the lads and all that. And I think that just shows you like the togetherness right now, and with the fans as well. And I think obviously we went through that little patch where it was a bit like obviously like criticism was there. And I think it was right at the time, do you know what I mean? But I feel like we're back to where, when you think of Marine at their best, the fans, the players, the whole club, that this is where we're best when everyone's together and like pushing the right direction, isn't it? And as I said, I don't really, obviously we've seen we'll talk about in a minute the cup tour. I do not fear of Rochdale or Tamworth one bit. They could beat us, but there's no reason to fear any of them because we've gone to Halifax when we were in the MPL and gone and beat Halifax in the FA Cup. So, as I said, looking forward to every play, but definitely don't fear any of them.
No, and that it's when we saw the draw today, that was the first thing that came to my mind is that these are teams that Marine can go get a result at. Um, the Halifax game was the game that came to my mind of
Yeah.
we can get something. I want to go first back to Willow. Mark, what was your thoughts on the draw? Have you got a preference for Rochdale or Tamworth?
Well, obviously, looking at the table, lads, you'd hope it'd be Tamworth. Can't see it myself. I think it will be Rochdale. Um, and yeah, I think Mucky's just made a great point, and I was thinking about this exactly the same thing before the draw came out. Even in the league, and I think somebody alluded to it in the last pod. Going to Chorley last year, you, you didn't feel the worst, but you didn't expect anything. This year, completely different. We were disappointed to come away not winning the game. We're going to like established Conference North sides and sides that have played in the conference recently. And we're competent. We're not cocky, but we're certainly not fearful. And after the draw, I'm not fearful. I think it will be Rochdale, and I think Rochdale are probably the second favourites for the conference. And looking at the league table, if they win the games in hand, I think they can probably maybe even go top. An ex-league club, a big old, league ground, which is always a great occasion to go to for me. I'd much prefer these older sorts of grounds than the newer sort of compact kit grounds. They've got more character and stuff. But as I say, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Not come across as cocky, but we've got a confidence in the team and the club, and let's ride on that. Let's continue with that. And as somebody just said, Marine are at the best when everybody is pulling in the same direction and has got the same positive, outlook. We're always entitled to an opinion, me more so than most, sometimes. But that's all it is. It's an opinion, and it's because we care. Do you know what I mean? I've been watching Marine now for over 50 years on and off. I know I don't look old enough. Somebody say you don't look old enough, please. But I am. I remember the Rochdale games previously. I remember the one at Anfield when they were a league club and we were probably Northern Prem. And what a great occasion that was to play at Anfield and going to watch Marine at Anfield was a great one for me to take off so early on. I think it was 1989, probably. But I think that's where we are at the minute. And the thoughts on the draw, as somebody once said, it's a cliche thing. To win a cup, you've got to beat the best team sometime. You know what I mean? And I think there would be people looking at that draw today who didn't want to draw us. And at a late stage in a national competition, that's probably not always happens. But I think there was a few. And I don't think Rochdale and Tamworth will be overjoyed at drawing us.
I think, yeah, I definitely agree with you. There's definitely going to be teams who were desperate to avoid Marine. Marine have shown over years just how good they are in cup competitions. In 90 minutes, they can beat anyone. Mucky touched on it only a few minutes ago about Halifax last year. Marine just have this pedigree within cups. Mark, you were saying before as well, Mark Wilcock, a number of links between Rochdale and Marine as well. Would you expand on that for us?
Yeah, so as soon as the fixture came in, for me, that was the glamour tie for me because it was obviously the highest performing team in the north after step one, ex EFL team, obviously going back to Scotland as well. So obviously we'll get that stadium that Mark was talking about. But then I was thinking, like, what were the connections between Marine and Rochdale? And I'm pretty sure, like Barry and the likes of Dave Mack and all them will probably reel off a load more than what I was thinking of. But from when I was supporting Marine, I remember obviously the main one's going to be obviously Bobby Grant. He played for them, I think it was around 2012, 2013 or something. He followed Coleman from Accrington. Obviously, Coleman signs him from Accrington, both moved to Rochdale. But then I remember Sean Hesse played for them, or another ex-manager. Who else did we have? Joe Bunny from a few years ago, the left winger, left back. He's ex-Bury,
Yeah.
Rochdale, sorry. Who's the other one? We had Neil
I see
Harvey,
you mentioned,
Neil Kengy,
yeah,
Neil Hart.
mentioned Hesse before.
Yeah, Sean Hesse, yeah. He was playing centre back. He was at Rochdale for a while. You also had Neil Harvey, Lee McEvely, Donnelly, Neil Kengy. I was just going through all these players from the time I've been watching them. Obviously, there's going to be loads more before 2012, whatever it was. But ironically, that first season, I started watching Marine. One of the first pre-season friendlies I went to was Marine Rochdale. I think they won 1-0 or something that day, but that was my first ever, probably my first ever Marine game, to be honest, as well. But just touched on what Willow said before. When I saw, my eyes lit up because obviously I knew we played Rochdale previously in two FA Cup occasions. Obviously, the one in the 70s and early 70s, and obviously the one Willow mentioned in 89, was it? At Anfield. But this sets up like the trilogy, doesn't it? This is like the 50-year trilogy where, this is going to be the third sort of cup competition between the two clubs. So I like to see there's a little bit of history between those two clubs there as well, because it gives you the nostalgia feeling for the older fans and stuff. Whereas Tamworth's a bit of a, for me, it's a bit of a, not, no disrespect to Tamworth, but it's a bit of a nothing burger because we've never played them before. We've kind of always missed them between the leagues. They're a Midlands club. Um, yeah, I don't know. I mean, they had a good FA Cup run, didn't they, a couple of years ago, sort of thing like us. But yeah, for me, I was made up. I just hope Rochdale win. I've said this now, I'll probably just jinx myself. Tamworth are born and battered them now 4-0. But anyway, there's my 2p.
Sam, Tamworth are going to keep the receipt on that, Mark. They'll come for you when they, if they win, they'll be keeping the receipt.
I know.
Josh, Josh, was Rochdale a glamour tie for you when you were having a look through the potential opponents Marine could get, or did you have someone else in mind that you would have preferred to go to?
Think his mic's down.
Josh is having technical problems.
Oh,
We'll come
yeah,
back
there
to
we
Josh in a
go.
minute.
The old, I
He's
forgot to
back.
take myself off mute. Jesus Christ. That old
This is
chestnut.
why I'm not paying you. Josh, that's why I won't pay you.
I usually only save that for team meetings in work. Oh, my mic's not working. So let's start again. Yeah, I was speaking to Mucky about it today. And like I was saying about Rochdale, and glamorous. It's probably the first and last time Rochdale and glamour have ever been mentioned in the same sentence. But yeah, do you know what? Like, probably I would have preferred them at home, and that's just me being me because I just think being a team's the MTA, and I just like the MTA. I don't like proper football grounds anymore. Like I can't be bothered being segregated and stuck at the ends of the grounds in the stand. Like it just doesn't do it for me, and that's just from a selfish perspective, really. But I think you're right. Rochdale is a massive club. I always used to bank on them on me both teams to score every week. When he was in the league on the accumulators, they just used to like score goals and concede them. Was it Ian Henderson who used to play up front for them? Just used to bang them in constantly.
Yeah, that's
So yeah, do you know what? I'm glad we've got a team like that. I am, to be honest. Like someone alluded to before, to be the best, you've got to beat the best, and I think this will be a really good litmus test for us to go. Do you know what? Where kind of are we as a team? I didn't realise they were. I'd only took a brief glance at the table, and I didn't realise if they win their games and they're clear at the top. So I think it's a great litmus test. I do think. Go back to what we were saying before, we need reinforcements in that's clear. But we've got nearly 3 weeks to get them in, and I'm looking forward to it. To be honest, a decent side, probably favourites to go back up, favourites for the trophy itself, and yeah, I think another one would have been good, as like you were saying to Mucky, like a Forest Green or somewhere to try and ruin Savage's day again, like we did when in the playoff final. But I'm just glad it's somewhere right within a 2 hour away day, regardless. Tamworth you can get to is just over an hour on the train, and Rochdale's just over an hour in the car. So I think no matter who we get, we're going to take a good crowd. But doesn't be a good day out for everyone.
It certainly will be a good day, and it's certainly something I'm looking forward to. Me and Mucky had a really good conversation earlier on this afternoon. My position was I would much prefer Rochdale simply on the basis of they're going to be pushing for the playoffs. I don't think the FA Trophy is going to be a big priority for them, so you might get a weakened side. Mucky, what were your thoughts going into the draw? Is this the tie that you sort of wanted? Are you a bit disappointed that maybe we didn't get not mean to sound disrespectful, but a lesser difficult opposition, or were you happy to get such a tie like a Rochdale?
Yeah, I think there's two ways really. I think like some of the ones that like your Chathams and Horshams and like Yeovil would have been a good like long like they fit, but then at the other point I think what we've got, I think we're going to take a lot more fans than we would to any of them games. So I think that's a benefit. That I think the shed's only an hour away, and I think we if we took 500 to Halifax, hopefully we'd take something similar. I mean, I I actually. I actually want us to get Rochdale, not just because I've been to Rochdale actually a couple of years back when they played Sunderland in League One. So I quite like the ground. It's old. It's like an old fashioned ground, which
Yeah, old school ground,
yeah,
isn't it?
that's the way I'm looking forward to the ground, and it's in between ours and stuff like that. I really like it, but I also want them because I do think I think they've got 4 games in hand, and I do think they're going to rest players. They could rest players and get beat tomorrow by Tamworth. Do you know what I mean? But I think Tamworth will probably be a tougher. So I know people will probably laugh at that, but I just think the games in hand they've got and the club they are, they will want to get back in the football league. And I don't, I think the FA Trophy. Listen, they'll probably want to win it. But I do think it comes second in their priorities, kind of thing. So if they do get through against Tamworth, I do think they'd rest players, against us. Not saying they'd rest everyone, but I do think it could be like an even more even game then. I think, we'll have a go anyway. Tamworth, I think, are 8 points off the playoffs, so I think they may see the FA Trophy as a bit more of a priority because I don't think they'll get in the playoffs, and they'll maybe see this as an opportunity and they'll be in our room, get through to the next round. So, yeah, I mean, as I said, people may laugh and think I'm talking nonsense there with the Rochdale thing, but I do think, with the 4 games in hand, I think that does come into effect for me, when you look at their priorities, in terms, where do they want to go up or because they're not going to want to get injuries and all the rest of it, do you know what I mean?
That's a very good point, that Mucky, because like you say, potentially in 2 weeks' time, depending on what their fixtures are going to be like, their results, sorry,
Yeah,
they may be thinking, we're not going to put all our first best players out here
yeah,
going in. We don't want to go into February, March, without, those injuries and obviously focus on the league. So a very good point. So potentially we could be facing a very weak Rochdale side, which
yeah.
could work in
But
our favour.
that's the way I see it. I feel like
Mm,
the Tamworth game. I mean, Tamworth played hard in the FA Cup and they only won 1-0.
yeah,
So I still think we've got every chance of winning Tamworth. Sorry. But as I said, I just think like listen, I might be wrong. Do you know what I mean? They might throw the full team out and that be the end of it. But I do think if they've got 4 games in hand, I think the 3 points off top the league. They'll be looking at them 4 games in hand and sitting there
yeah.
thinking if we win all them, we could be 6, 7 points ahead, in the league. So I just think like in terms of priorities, I do think it comes below the league. And if you look at the comments from their fans, that's exactly the vibe I'm getting from them. Their
Yeah.
fans, they're looking in and going. I don't think they'd even be bothered. They've got big by Tamworth, to be honest, tomorrow. Do you know what I mean? So it's like if they do go through, I think there's a big opportunity there for us to get through because I do think they will rest players.
And just go back, I was reeling off all those names, all those players with the connection between Marine, and if we do beat them, you can use them. You know that famous is it the Norwegian team or Poland when they beat England?
Yeah,
And they're rolling off all, you could just go through like Joe Bunny, Neil Harvey, Lee McEverly, like your boys
yeah.
took one hell of a beat at me, mess with now.
The Billy Joel song, that isn't it?
Yeah. Oh,
Josh, you made a really good point before about Rochdale's ground, and it's only because I was watching a video from the YouTuber Stumpeg. She's a very knowledgeable woman when she talks about football, I listen. She's really, really good, really interesting. And she was talking about where does non-league football stop when you look at the teams in the National League and even National League North, those that are full-time, the money that's involved, and you think of a stadium like Rochdale's, for example, exactly how you described it before. You're stuck in a corner, it's an old football league ground, all seated. For you, where does non-league football end as well? Would you class Rochdale as a non-league side, or are they a
No,
football league side
no.
that are currently displaced?
The latter. They're a massive side, are they? Let's be realistic. They've been part and parcel of the league for years. And I don't know what happens and why they went down, and I don't know the politics behind it and that. But if you're talking about like a Rochdale, I'm always thinking of like a League Two, even League One club. Someone said a proper just northern club, one of those gritty clubs who just kind of get on with it, represent the fans. And they're too big of a club for me. And I think just looking at like the past history, they're too big of a club to be in that National League. And I don't think they'll be there for long. Whatever happens, happens. And they seem to have dusted themselves down and look to be going back up again. And it's it happened to Marines, didn't it? When we got relegated years ago, sometimes you'll have to go down to reset and then build back up. And looks like Rochdale is doing that now. They've got the infrastructure that, and they're all right, it's an older ground, but they've got the infrastructure there, they've got the fans. So, yeah, proper league team for me.
We're going to start looking to wrap this up soon. So I sort of want to take us now into sort of one of the penultimate talking points I wanted to raise, and that is Odin Samuel Smith, who I don't know if he's got an interest in ever watching one of these, but if he does, I just want to say thank you for the fantastic efforts that you put in, and I hope you've enjoyed your time at Marine. And tell all your colleagues within the Everton under 23s who may be pushing for a first team opportunity to go and have a little loan spell at Marine and show what you're about as you have. Willow, gonna go to you first. Your thoughts on Odin Samuel Smith and sort of what he leaves behind in that short time that he spent at Marine.
I think that the highest sort of compliment I pay him is he forgot more or less from minute one of game one that he was a young lad from a league club on loan. He just took to it like an absolute duck to water. Um, he looked comfortable. He again, we said before we have had our fingers burnt in the loan market. And I think my sort of thing on loans is to me there's three types of loan, and I think we've seen all three of them this year. There's some loans that are complete and utter waste of time. They're not interested, and they've they're in the departure lounge at the parent club, and they just want them out the way. And as I say, I think we've had a couple like that recently, and that were just taking up space for me. We've had another one, the Curran Nichols guy from Salford. I think I put on social media, to me, that was a perfect win-win for both parties. We needed bodies in that particular area of the pitch. He came in, he did a job, he got plenty of minutes under his belt, and he's gone back. And then you've got the likes of Odin, who, let's hope it is a stepping stone for him to go on. And if not at the very highest level of Premier League, certainly, Championship, League One, and get a good career out the game. Because, if anyone from what we've seen deserves it, it's him. Because from a personality point of view as well, such a lovely lad. He was very humble. I didn't really have a conversation with him as such, but I did bump into him a few times, and every single time he always let on and said hello. And to me, that speaks volumes. The thing about loans is as well, and especially from having been involved, albeit quite a long time ago now, like at the academy at Everton, it's trust. Premier League clubs don't send people just anywhere. They've got to be able to trust the club that they're going to, that they're going to be looked after. There's going to be, they're going to get something out of it. Not necessarily always on the pitch, just by growing up and becoming, making that transition from kids football to real men's football where points mean something. But certainly Premier League clubs don't just send lads anywhere. And the more we can forge a relationship with the likes of Everton, because the two lads we've had from there, Fraser's still with us and going from absolute strength to strength, you can see him game by game maturing. And they'll have people at the games, they'll be watching. They can see that progression. So, as I say, I can't really add any more with regard to Odin than that's not already been said either in person on the pods or on social media. He's done amazing. It was a fabulous, acquisition by the club to be able to get him. Marine have always had a good reputation as an honest club. Again, I've watched Marine for so long now. I've known loads of lads who've played. I used to be involved in civil service football, and back in the day, non-league football was a lot of civil servants, firemen, policemen, etc., etc. And I used to have lads coming to me saying, from Manchester and places who've been offered the chance to come to Marine, what's Marine like? And I said it's an honest place. Non-league football used to be listed with people going to places being promised the earth. And after a run of, 3 or 4 bad results or whatever, the money was cut. They went out the cup, the money was cut. People waiting 2 or 3, 4 weeks for wages. Marine's never been like that, as far as I know. It's an honest club and it's about trust. And as I say, I think that foundation will do as well as Bobby and Neil and their connections. The club itself is able to now to attract, I think, a better standard, both in loan signings and permanent signings.
Certainly, and absolutely agree with you 100% there. Going to you, Mark Wilcox, your thoughts on Odin. I'm just thinking of just how how much of a benefit not only to Odin has been to Marine, but how much of a benefit Marine's been to Odin, and what does that do for Marine going forward when approaching other Premier League clubs to see about getting loans for promising young players?
Well, well, for me, it's like reputation, isn't it? I mean, I guess clubs are now look at the likes of Fraser and Ozil and think, you know what, they're playing these lads and they're actually making them better players. That was obviously touching on Odin. As he came, we saw him play, and I was like, oh my God, he's a right-footed left back. What's going on here? And obviously, it turns out to be the best right-footed left back I've ever seen at Marine. Um, but I'm just so glad he came to Marine as a player and left as a better player. It was all when he came in. I was doing some research on him, and I saw he had a twin brother, and they were both left backs. And his twin brother got sold to Chelsea, I think, for like 3 or 4 million or something. And he remained at Everton, where he fitted into that left back slot and didn't quite cut the first team. Came to us, and now I don't know where he's going to go. Hopefully, he'll get in Paul Tate's team, and but that whole reputation thing that's at the beginning, I think I'd love Liverpool to go. We'll have some of that as well, and we can have those relationships with the Premier League teams. And obviously, not rather than getting the players that are getting let go in the summer, getting the ones that they want to keep hold of that we can develop. Do like Reece James did at Wigan, from Chelsea and stuff like that. And these players go on and have these amazing careers and stuff, and we can always say, "Oh yeah, he started with us," sort of thing. But yeah, no, I think it's great. I think it just speaks volumes to what having a director of football like what we've got, and having Bobby as well to manage them. And I'm hoping he'll leave. He'll be leaving. We'll have another Marine fan, in the Everton under 23s, and he'll come back one day or look out for our results. But yeah, wish him all the best. Yeah, he's a lovely lad.
And going over to you there, Josh, as well. Is there anything standing out about Odin in his short time here with Marine that's made him really stand out to you? And what do you think the future holds for Marine, as Mark Wilcox just touched on there, about being able to attract higher caliber young players that Premier League clubs maybe want to keep, want to see them progress? Have Marine shown that this is an environment for them players to progress and develop in?
Yeah, well, I said it before tonight about Samuel Smith. It's probably the best loan player I've seen since I thought we got Hayes initially, in his first spell. And, I'd love to see him at least go into the leagues and make a decent career for themselves. I think he can more than do that and hold his own. It's a funny one because we used to get loans, didn't we? Especially more from Liverpool years ago. We used to get our keepers, didn't we? Shamal George, Dan Avon. We used to get all of our keepers from there, didn't we? And then those kinds of just dried up from Liverpool and Everton. Not happened for a few years. And I don't know if academies and, the kinds of how football's gone and they're doing a bit too good to be getting loans out to these types of clubs. But, you look at especially teams like National League North, the majority of the players who are in them teams have all come through academies of, very good teams, especially up north as well. How many teams that we've got, you've all come through those academies and the ended up lower down the leagues or, at non-league themselves. And it's, I suppose, if you look at non-league football in kind of Merseyside, especially in kind of the Northwest, Marine, especially like, coastal Marine, have one of the highest ranking non-league sides out. Well, we are the highest, pretty much highest ranking non-league sides in Merseyside. If you're Liverpool or Everton, you're going, well, hang on, I can send them there and get much more competitive football on the Saturday than what they will with the under-18s or the under-21s. And you can still train with us for the week, you can still do the developments and all that. So it's an absolute no-brainer, isn't it, really, when you think about it? So I think in speaking hypothetically 4 or 5 years time and then we do get that new ground, all of a sudden it is going to open those doorways, isn't it? And I think, like you say, we've got Young there dealing with that type of stuff in the background, which helps massively because Bobby can just manage his team. And yeah, I'd like to think now that opens the doorway for us to get these types of players now. And yet, just touch wood with it, really. It is starting to build relationships. And, next season, then get the next crop of youngsters through and look and go, yeah, do you know what? Got a couple of players here. Let's look at Marine and see what we can offer them. So, yeah, and touch wood. And I think Mark Williams said before, I forgot his name, was Corey Cummins Nickel, just a shout out to him. He come in for the month and was just unbelievable. Didn't miss a beat, is he? We were desperate and said to midfield, didn't miss a beat. Come for the month, off he went. But yeah, I doubt it. You'll see this, but yeah, it's a massive shout out to him because I think he was crucial during that period. Another successful loan.
That's it. I mean, not one player who's walked through the door this summer has let Marine down, have they?
No,
Whether it's one of the established players or one a new face that's come in on contract or any of the loans. Not one single person has let the side down. And they've all worked hard. Mucky, going forward and looking into the future, then do you see a potential another loan maybe coming in for someone to replace the hole that Odin leaves, or could it be a case now of Marine looking to make it maybe a permanent sign to cover that left back position?
Yeah, it obviously depends on the budget, doesn't it, and what we can get. I also think like the defense this season, the people especially Josh Ward, the captain, he's loud and he demands standards, doesn't he? And I think the same with Drysdale, although he's injured now, and Anson who's been brilliant, but James Brown and the one. So I think it is good for a youngster to come in because they demand standards, and you either will or you match them standards, and Odin match them standards 100%, isn't it? And as everyone said, he looks an unbelievable player, doesn't he? He's probably one of the best like loans we brought in. But just his calmness on the ball. He's I'm not too sure if he is a left back. I think he could probably play like a centre back or right back. 'Cause he's a big, strong lad, isn't he? And yeah, I can't think of many games where he's been struggled kind of thing. So it wouldn't surprise me if he got loaned out to I don't know, National League club or even a League Two club to see how he
yeah,
does there because I think he is like a level above this league, if I be honest. But yeah, as I said, it just depends who we can get, isn't it? The problem is obviously with loans, they're a bit, you know, it's because he's been so good, isn't it? You want to try and replace him with some. I'm not sure you get someone as good as him, but you don't want to bring someone in who's going to really struggle, isn't it? Because it will be you'll see it more like kind of thing. But it's definitely an area that we need to replace. But I think obviously in the short term, Adam Thomas can go there, and I think he'll do a job for us. And again, we spoke about how his versatility. I don't. I think he'll be. It's only in goal he hasn't tried any. I won't play past him being in goal once. You know what I mean? It's the only position he hasn't played this season. But he just, why about him? Because I haven't spoke really about him today. He reminds me like a James Milner, where you just throw him
Yeah,
at
yeah.
anywhere.
yeah,
That
And
was the person I was thinking of.
yeah,
He's a Milner.
he just reminds me that. And obviously, people won't sit there and go, like if they were named the absolute best. I know Tim did mention him in the top three, but if you ask most fans, they probably wouldn't say Thomas. But I tell you what, 99% of that squad couldn't play in the positions he's played in and still do, a 8 out of 10 job because that's why I see in Thomas. I know he scored a worldie at Chorley, but you're not going to see that every week, you know what I mean? But he will always give you an 8 out of 10 wherever he plays, and that for me is just that's a great thing because obviously, I think the great thing now for Bobby as well, he doesn't have to rush it. That's what you don't want, do you? Just rush the signing and then it not work. He's got someone there who can, fill in, and then he can really target someone who they think can replace Soden really.
That's it. I mean, Youngi's shown throughout his time as the manager that he was never going to rush a signing and he was not going to spend money for the sake of spending money.
Yeah.
And in his time this season as director of football, every single signing that he's been able to get over the line have all paid. Well, we'll just finish as well, I believe Thomas, will be blushing watching this, and if Odin sees this as well, we'll just finish off with a big, thank you, Odin, with a big love heart.
Yeah.
And wish you Odin all the very best, and hope you have a fantastic. But and that goes for every single player who puts on a Marine shirt. We hope that every single player who leaves Marine goes on to have a great football career. I know a lot of time it doesn't work out, but you look at players like Sol, who went on, he had a great footballing career, and they got into the football league, and so you always hope that we know what Marine are. We are a stepping stone for players to go up higher into the leagues, and hopefully that continues to happen. And Premier League clubs will see the benefit that Marine can offer them, and offer us some of their talented youngsters, as Everton have this season. But we'll wrap it up there. I want to say a big thank you as well to all the great guests today. I want to say thank you to Mark, to Willow, to Josh, to Mucky as always. Thank you very much, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure having you on.
Cheers, guys. Thank